When I was going to Kenya, I was going to make a connection.
Do you? And what would you like to be, Faith? A doctor. Oh, wow. Wow, that's a lot of study.
But it was only the night before we were leaving, when we were sitting down having our debrief, and we went through all of the stories, and we realised that we weren't actually making a connection. The connection was very much already there and very rooted in the people of Kenya, and they saw this as a reconnecting and a hopeful visit for the future, that this is the start of something more and something bigger.
I need to just take it back 2 years, 2020. I came into the Diocese in Waterford Lismore as Diocesan advisor to post-primary schools. Of course, we all know COVID existed, it was present, and lockdowns. And I was thinking about how can I actually engage with the young people, even though they were in their own rooms, etc. So I ran Christian rock music for them, and we've run a few projects like that. They generated money, and I needed to find out, well, what charity will we give it to? And I was talking to a friend of mine who suggested Mary's Meals, which I'd never heard of. Got on to the head guy over in Scotland and spoke with a lady called Trish Friel in Ireland, the director of Mary's Meals. And we handed over the money, and then I realised, do you know, wouldn't it be great to get involved at more of an international level and have our young people associated with that? And eventually then, by talking with Trish, we found out that they were in Lodwar. Mary's Meals were in Lodwar. And made contact with Bishop Dominic out there, who's a bishop of Lodwar himself. And eventually we realised there's a very strong potential here of a twinning. I originally thought about bringing young people out there from the whole level of social justice and faith in action. But I realised very quickly, look, it was really essentially at the start about teachers. And also the development of their own faith. By being among the poorest of the poor, and please God, meeting Christ there. Essentially, I started Life and Spirit seminars and faith development programs for these teachers, and we had our trip last July.
I went to Kenya because for years I have been longing to go somewhere where I could see faith in action and bring that home to my students, with a view to travelling with students in the future.
When I was in secondary school, my own school, the Sisters of Mercy, had started a twinning in Kenya. I think the seed was planted from my experience in secondary school.
So it was a powerful, powerful trip. It organically grew. There was no strategy put behind it at the very start. It just organically grew. And then out there we tied down a real beautiful twinning with the Diocese of Lodwar and ourselves.
When we visited Eldoret, I was shocked by the area that the students were coming from. They were coming from 6 slum areas in the schools that we were visiting. And to see them running home so happy from school and delighted to be going home to nothing. And when they were in school, they were delighted when they were getting food, they were learning, they were with their friends, and there was just such happiness. I can only describe it as just happiness.
The twinning of the diocese entails the two dioceses working hand in hand, the Diocese of Lodwar in Kenya and our own diocese here. So Bishop John Mbinda was a new bishop there in Lodwar. The diocese is located in Turkana, which is the north of Kenya. It is a place now where there has been basically no rain for the past 4 years. Therefore, life is a struggle for many, not for all. For those living outside of the towns, in the country areas, life is very tough. The provision of water is extremely difficult. But there have been many Irish missioners who have gone to that part of the world. So many, religious especially, doing tremendous work.
The priests that we met had been educated by Irish priests and sisters, and they were so grateful and the gratitude that they were, extending to us was for the people who had educated them and who had given them so much. They mentioned the Kiltegan Fathers, the Loretto Sisters, the SMAs. There were so many, and I can't even remember all of them that they mentioned, but there were so many.
A connection of hearts, the Irish people's heart with the Kenyan people's heart, both together. Students and adults.
I got my students to buy, as a fundraiser, chain links, paper chain links, and they wrote their names on them. They were used as raffle tickets then for a draw. But then I brought blank ones to Kenya, and the children in classes there wrote their names, and when I came home I made a chain with all of the links. So Kenya and Ireland are linked in that chain.
From a parish level, it would be kind of adult to adult support. We can support fundraising and get monies out there to build wells to get water. Because in a lot of the areas they're walking 17, 20 kilometres to get water and bring it back. And to support Mary's Meals in getting food to the poorest of the poor, and they need it.
We saw poverty beyond belief. We saw desert where crops had grown. I think it starts with the absolute basic of water. We had a priest, we went to an amazing mass in the bush. I have never felt so connected with people at a mass before. It was in their native language. I didn't understand a word of it, but yet I understood everything. But the priest who goes there has to travel by motorbike, and some days, some weeks he doesn't have the money to buy the diesel to get there.
We're going to generate a number of wells out there, build a number of wells. We need 6 presently before Christmas, if we can get them in, 6 of them. 2 definitely, but it's of vital importance, and we've seen the regions that need this. They will need new small buildings for some of the schools out there, in particular in the desert area. And they will also receive support from ourselves, such as Zoom's meetings that we would have with a number of the kids in the city part, where internet is accessible, with our own kids over here.
What hit us all, I think, and I can only speak for myself, was just how humble and warm and kind and positive and happy, actually, a lot of the kids and the community were to see us.
We get to try and understand how those people and those young kids and those adults are still contented, are still somewhere happy. I know they're in survival mode and they're starving, but there's the welcome we receive from them. It comes across that they are contented. There's very little suicide out there, very little mental illness out there. And just take a look in the Irish culture and the level of suicide, the level of mental illness, the level of mental problems that we're dealing with the whole time with our young people. They may have everything, the whole material, secular stuff there, they may have it all, but there's a spirituality about those people, and we need to learn. We need to be open and learn from them.
Two-way relationship where it is not simply us giving, but it's also us receiving. And for them, it's not only them receiving things from us, but also giving so much of the richness which they have.
I think my students could benefit from seeing how much they have, and to learn that to be happy isn't about what you have, it's about what you feel, it's about what you experience, it's about being together, it's about faith, it's about community.
It gives the students an opportunity to develop their empathy, their compassion, their gratitude, I suppose, too, for what they do have in their lives.
I was connecting up with Patricia Friel, who's the director of Mary's Meals Ireland. When we've seen where they reach to, and the poorest of the poor that they reach out to in Turkana region, particularly in the desert area. We have deep poverty, for example, where you'd have a child walking down a mountain, 4-year-old, 10 kilometres to get under a tree so they get fed at 11 o'clock. 1 cupful of tea sort of stuff, maize and nuts in it, and that's it until the next day. And Mary's Meals are in the heart of all of that, and we want to be in the heart with them.
We visited a school under a tree where Mary's Meals has a feeding programme. It was an early learning centre, and the children were all gathered around us getting selfies, and you know, there was a lot of activity and excitement and laughter, and I felt this little brush on my lap, and I looked down and this beautiful little girl was looking up at me, and she followed me, and I lifted her up and we were tickling and you know, having a nice little time. And then I asked the teacher about her. So her name is Nareem, she's 3, and she had beads around her neck, and one of the teachers told me that those beads mean that she has already been promised in marriage and that she will probably be married before she's 12. And I have a 12-year-old daughter, so that really struck home.
I just think about it, 18 euros and a bit to feed a child for a whole school academic year. Just, that's all it is. 9 cents within the day. It's just, and our kids can understand that. Do you know, and our parishes will understand that.
The people of Lodwar need water. Their crops have died, their animals are dying, and the people will be next.
Now is the time, there's an urgency. And I know coming out of COVID, the world now is a small place. And our kids, because they're so socially justice driven, we need to connect with that again and connect them with the faith in action. And they will go with it. I know the young people, and even seeing the teachers, they're going to flow with this and they'll be associated deeply.
One of the strongest communities in Ireland is the church, it is the diocese, and I think that's where we start, and we need to start building that up.
I would love to see people here in the diocese getting enthused about it and trying to link up parishes here with parishes in Lodwar, and also schools, that schools here could be linked up with schools in Lodwar, as a very real way of expressing the communion of the church. That, as St. Paul says, that if there is one part of the body in need, another part of the body comes to its aid.
We're not going out to put our ideas to them, we'll learn from them and work shoulder to shoulder.